Hello everybody, Steven here. So in our last video, I was going over the programs and kind of stuff that I would like to have in the building. But I just felt that the arrangement of the rooms wasn't following any concept anymore. I was just putting there, just thinking about their size and um, how they will fit within the site. So I thought maybe I'll just go back to the concept, and I was looking at this timeline that I've done about the history of Tahiti, and as you can see here, there's like different periods um, after each kind of turning points of Tahiti history. Thing that really changed the way people were living, um, like the first arrival of the European in Tahiti and the arrival of religion, um, and then the French protectorate, and there was like after the war, and then when we got the autonomy. Of course, the nuclear era when they started to do the test. So I thought maybe I could use this timeline to help me put the spaces together. So I had this idea that I've sketched. No, it's this. I can make that bigger for now. So that's what I sketched first. The idea was, let me get it. Maybe blue. So let's take out. The idea was to create a timeline within the architecture. So this line here, oops, it's not showing. Need the brush tool. So this time, okay. What color? Maybe green. It's better. Make it bigger. So this timeline is gonna be here, and at each point, so that's the first contact, evangelization, protectorate, and I actually choose the when they first started the nuclear test and when it ended. And I also thought about how do you say? So the straight line would be the concept of time, maybe in the Western perspective, and instead of having a straight line, because I think I've read somewhere that maybe Polynesian had a different concept of time. So I wanted to represent this difference by having the timeline shaped differently. So I would have seen it as a curve, something that's flowing, feels more natural. So it's gonna be like this. And then it would create spaces in between, like this space here, and those space could be what you see in the timeline, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you think about the museum and how the information is going to be displayed, they'll be displayed into a room, and then I was thinking that that room could be designed in a way to make people remember that era, what happened. not just by the information, but the way it's designed. And let's go back. So that's what I had in mind. And then I sketched this on my iPad. And here what I thought was interesting is that in some areas, I don't know, but the curve will go out of the boundary. Because I know that this concept of limits on property, that's something that was brought out by the Western. So I thought this curve here at some point would be cut. So when you're inside the building, you would actually see the representations of the Western influence on Tahitian life by having that wall here cutting to that curve. So what I want to do now is actually maybe go into ArchiCAD and play with the geometry of the space and use this idea of timeline to kind of well, shape the space. So let's go into ArchiCAD. So I'm just taking a image of the site. I don't know if I told you earlier, but I did the figure ground drawing. I clicked on every footprint to get that big image that you might have seen before. But while I was doing some stuff in the file, I've pressed Ctrl A to select everything and press delete. And I didn't realize that I actually deleted all the figure ground. And then I saved as a habit, and of course now all my work that I did before was gone. But that's fine. If I have to redo it, I'll just redo it. Anyway, so I've resized the image, and now I've traced the outline. Try to make it bigger. I'm just gonna change make it through line weight. Let's see if I can pick a thicker one here. Anyway, you wouldn't see because the image is so big. So I already did this. That's what I kind of use first to get the proper scale to create that graphic. So just so you can see, when I did my timeline, I looked at roughly when people thought that Tahiti was discovered by the first Polynesian, and it was about here. So all this time, and 1767, that's when the first European came to Tahiti, and that's when everything changed. Well, a lot of the things happened. So what I'm gonna do now is gonna take this, make a copy, and going back to our site, I'm gonna paste that. So this will give me a scale. Oops. Before copying, where's the scale on that? So it's 1 to 100. So just to make sure that when I bring back the information, 1 to 100 as well, so I wouldn't need to resize those later. And just for clarity, I think I'm just gonna hide that, and I'm gonna bring that here. So what I'm thinking to do is to let me try this. So what I'm thinking to do is to have the timeline coming this way and do similar things, but now because I got the correct scale, I'll be able to have a better idea how it fit on the site. So the I guess the timeline will respond to the context. And okay, so maybe first we need to think about how we're gonna get that line. So we could either maybe get the center line to center line, but maybe what we could do is to use the boundaries. This is quite arbitrary, but I'm still using the site as a guide to create my shape. And so I've connected this, and now I'm just gonna get the middle line. So this is gonna be the axis for our timeline, and I'm just gonna put that aside, make a group, and I'm just gonna make a copy of that so I can get the original. And now I'm just gonna rotate it so it align with this. Now I have to understand where I want things to start. Maybe I create first a kind of setback. And maybe a setback of what? Let's say 3 meters for now. Oops, 3000 and to put. I mean, this can change later on. And we're gonna start with 1767. So it's this one here, and we're gonna move it here. So now I'm gonna stretch that to all the way there. Right now the endpoint is 2019 because that's the year we're at. But then I think if it were to be built, I would put the end as when the building is finished. So it will mark maybe the time when the memorial was created. Oops, you have to ungroup that so you can stretch everything. 2019, and I bring it to here. So now we have that timeline on the site, and maybe I'm just gonna change the colors of the key points. So those are the points that I've selected earlier. So it's gonna be this one, this one, this one, this one, and those two were the bombings. So I'm just gonna change that to red, and I think this one is important as well. Second World War. And 76 should be, I think it's this one here. That's when Tahiti got his autonomy. Take that, and this one, purple, and so now I'm thinking if that's alright. Okay, so now I got a timeline, and now if we wanted to get our curves here and create those spaces, I'm just trying to think of a way to create those curves while retaining our concept idea. I think earlier I was saying that those were like turning points, so, and it kind of shape the path that, or the lifestyles of Tahitians. So maybe you can use those points as to create arcs. And wait, if we took this line and this line, and so that's the center point, and we were to create maybe a circle that meets here, and then maybe you'll take one from here to here, so we get the center of this, which is here, and so we create another circle from here. Wait, so it's here. I'm just thinking how I can create this as a center point, but I'm just gonna start from here to here, and because the center of this is here, so I'm just gonna pull that to here, and I'm gonna do the same thing here. So from the middle of those two, center is here, and so we'll make that, but then I need to move it a little bit so it touch that, and I'm gonna do the same thing here. It's 45, 36. So at colonial, I don't know if I should do all of this, or because I mean that's like the French period. Because if I were to do it from turning point, that was the turning point that shaped it, and there's another one here. Okay, maybe we'll just continue until the autonomy, maybe here. And where's the center of that? So it's here. So let's make a circle here, and we're gonna just drag this all the way to here, and now I'm just gonna wait. So that's another turning point. I'm gonna make that circle here, and I'm just gonna bring it back to 2019. Okay, so let's cut that. So if we think again of what we did, so those were like the, those were the center points. And so, and then goes into an array. So this is how the turning points affect the path. Interesting shapes. But now, and I'm just wondering what I could do now. So now I got a paths, and okay. I mean, it's cool. It's creating some spaces here. And remember a thing in this concept here. Oops, let's go messy here. Turn that. Gonna turn this off. I had decided I was taken from the Jewish museum where I wanted to have the memorial or some information that's hidden underground. So maybe I can take this and apply it to a new idea where there'll be kind of two paths. The one here at the top, that'll be on the upper levels. We'll talk about the cultures, the things that we can see today, and it's presented to the world. And ooh, wait, so the sun here. And then maybe on the underground, maybe not following, but maybe those spaces here can only be seen underground. So the stuff that's hidden. So maybe you could go all the way, go to those spaces here. Yeah. So maybe that shape is like the circulations, or maybe the rooms here. Let's try something. I'm just gonna select all that. I'm gonna make a copy, and edit, reshape, unify. So you just create one line, and let's see if I can make a copy and offset it. What, 6 meters? Oops, 6,000. And so we get that kind of paths. I guess I could do more. I'll just unify this one. Reshape, unify. I'm gonna make a copy and I'm gonna offset it. Maybe it's 10,000. Oh, it doesn't let me, because I think that's the maximum if you want to keep that nice curves. But maybe I can just offset, because I really want this path to kind of intersect that wall. It kind of look weird. Or maybe this one could be changed a little bit, and maybe some pop. But then I guess I would kind of need to find a reason for doing that. So let's say this one is like the paths. There'll be like maybe display here, and those zone here could be other area of exhibition, and maybe this area here is gonna be open, and I think it'd be cool if this came and connected here, so I would create a space there. Or let's see, what if we flip that? Yeah, it doesn't work that well, huh? But you see the idea. And so if we go in Photoshop, I kind of redo this drawing here. So I would have the ground level, and this path would maybe start a bit higher around, oops, make it smaller. So like this, so that's gonna be maybe at the bottom it's gonna be a public space. I mean, when I say public, it would be open, like people wouldn't need to pay or go through the main entry here. They could just walk inside the Memorial Museum, and so oops. So here and here it's the public. Maybe here that's the museum area. And this is the one that will display maybe the culture. So they will talk about maybe the islands, the dancings, the clothing, the materials, arts and crafts, and maybe below that's where you'll learn about the history. Maybe some of the things that have been forgotten or hidden. So it's still part of the museum and history, and maybe this is the part that will be considered as the memorial part, where I will design spaces that will try to make people remember what happened during those times. And this one will be accessed maybe from the front, and then you'll have to go down, and let's say you were to, so those are like open space, like if you were to make a section that we're currently drawing this way, maybe you would have like viewpoints. Maybe you could see from the outside that there's something below, and well, in that way you also get some natural light coming in. So if it's like this, I would have, let me take my eraser, I would have first an empty space here to represent this area there, then another empty space, and empty space, empty space, and where's my brush? So like this. Oops. So this one here, you would still see part of the building here. So just make continuation. This is open and this is another building, and this one's open. So maybe where it's open, you could have like an opening here, so like this, oops, maybe like this, where it will actually be connected to the room that's below. And maybe this one would have some type of openings, I don't know, maybe 2. So first people could see below, and then some lights could get in. And maybe here, yeah, people could come through here. And maybe under those spaces here, you could have space that would be used for the publics. Maybe those would be like a dancing area, or like a theater, or might be library. I think here I was gonna have a cafe, so that's gonna be underneath. At the bottom, I mean at the top, that's where you'd have the the museum. And maybe I could have some type of bridge or something that would kind of connect everything, so people would, oops, if they wanted to, they could go outside and walk along that path here, and you would create some type of courtyards inside. And I mean, this kind of reminds me of the landscape of Tahiti. Oops. Don't really see it here, but usually around the island there's a reef, and in some spots you can get in. I don't really know how you say it in English, but it's kind of like that. So people will be drawn in. Just want to add some maybe texture here, just to kind of show that's solid. And those are opens, and maybe I'll have one here. There's 2 only. I wish I had 3 openings. It looks, I think 3 it's better. But maybe I get 2 here, and maybe I'll have 1 here, 1 opening. Yeah. It just feels more stable. 3. Because if I were to go back here, so 1, 2, and then I can have 3 here. Maybe let's make a copy of that. Select everything except those 2 here, and now maybe I can play with that. So I have 1 here, maybe I move that here. So I have 1 there, here, here. Anyway, we'll see. Let's go back to Photoshop, and yeah, so if we go back into planes, maybe the room that you will access below will be all this, and maybe they'll have like a straight path to kind of give informations about the important event or the tipping point. Hey Hussein, hello. Just saw your comment. And so the straight line, I think I was going to use as a way to represent everything that's related to the Western or like the European story, and curve will be for Tahitian or Polynesian. So here you'd have stuff about the first arrival, here about the religion and like the French, then you have the bombings and all the in between that's underneath hidden. All those spaces here look like fish. And yeah, they will all be under. And on the surface, maybe you'll have some more greenery, nature. You got some trees here. And so it just means that in this level people can come in, and I'm thinking here, because it will feel like a public space where there's like a park where people can chill. So I was program wise, I was thinking maybe food, like restaurants, because I know in Polynesian culture, food is a good way of bringing people together. So people maybe will come for the food first, and they could see through those opening here that there's something below, and maybe they'd be interested to go and have a look and learn about the history, or if they want, they could go at the top. And yeah, I mean, because that's what I want to design, something that could help people to learn about their past and kind of reflect on what happened, and see how things have changed over time. So like you'd learn about the first arrival, and then maybe below you understand what happened. Just trying to think about how I'm gonna design it. Yeah, so maybe like I said, the basement will be about history, things that's usually forgotten, and it's made of like multiple memories, like depending on where you are, how you look at it, depending on your position, you would understand the events or the memories differently. So so I think that's what I had, the idea of overlap, where at the bottom up in here. There'll be the memories of Polynesians, and maybe at the top, that's the history. I mean, the things that's been recorded and shared to the public will be maybe at the top. So here it's gonna be more private, and here's gonna be more public. I'm still not sure how high my building needs to be. I don't want to go more than 4 level, because I think in Tahiti most of the building they're between what 4 to 6, and of course if I start to make it too big, it's gonna be too expensive to make. So maybe I'll add another level. So maybe a theater thing or library could be on that level as well, like things for education. And so we'll have like a library, and the theater or like conference room that's gonna be used here, and then the gallery could be around those spaces and following that curve. So yeah, so maybe like let's do a section through here, and so we're gonna have the ground floor here, the ground level, I mean the basement level, this level here. So maybe this is going a bit further in, and then that path is gonna be maybe just here, and that's the top of it. So let's say this space would be like a meeting room or library, so you would have maybe that coming here, and maybe you could access the library from the top, or you could just see it. So maybe you get some openings here and openings here. Maybe this one's gonna be glass, and maybe this is gonna go all the way here, or maybe this one's gonna come here, so that there is not too much of cantilever, and maybe if there's this opening here, it's gonna be maybe like that, and we can delete this, and make this bigger. Oh, there's the cut. And make it thinner for the openings, and thinner again, because normally, oh, I did it the wrong way. I think this is looking that side, so you would see the wall in here, so there'll be this wall, and it will slowly turn, and okay, this one's gonna have holes, And it needs to be bigger as well. Oops. And maybe like some type of windows. And I need some type of columns maybe just to keep everything still. So this will be in the background, and maybe along that path I'll have some windows, some openings, maybe like this. I also had this idea, you know how, where's the other drawing, the one on ArchiCAD. So I had this, it's just like a ruler, so I get the big dates, and it's divided maybe every I think what, 10 years between each line. So I was thinking we could have done something similar on here. So I'll have like line like this, and what this is, oops, this is 67 to 19, so we get 200 years, 220 years from, let's say, the beginning, 230 I think, if my maths are correct. So let's say I divide this line to 230, and maybe I'll try to apply those lines onto here as well for 230 years. And of course, because this line, if you were to stretch it, will be maybe 3 times as long. So if I try to divide this the same way as I divide this line, the spacing will be different, and maybe I could use that spacing, those lines, maybe to mark that timeline. Of course, I don't think people would understand, but it's a good way for me to kind of place, to have a framework to place the openings. So maybe here every 10 years I'll have a window opening, and because it's curved, and even the curve is it's not regular, so the placement of the window wouldn't look like equal space. I mean, visually it wouldn't look like it's equal space, but on the curve, on the plan, it might be. Well, I don't know. I'll have to do it on the software, because the ArchiCAD version that I have can't do that yet. But yes, so I would have windows like that, and let's just add some color to make it pop a little bit, and gonna put multiply, just add it bigger. So that's going to be one of the windows, and maybe it's that way that I just did the timeline could be a good way to kind of organize the exhibition, because let's say you want to celebrate the arrival of Paul Gauguin, the famous French painter in Tahiti, which was here, 1891. So you would look into that curve where 1891 fits, and maybe that's where you put some of his painting, or his the space about him is going to be around this area, and that thing could be done the same way in the room that are underground. So maybe the way it's displayed will be the same as well. Let's make a person here. So here that's gonna be like the green space, the open area where kids can come and play, and you have some greenery and people can see below. And I also want to have a roof garden on top of here. And one that's accessible as well. So maybe below it's all about the culture, and on the above you can see maybe some indigenous plants or fruit. I don't know. Maybe we could have that. And so there's one person here. And I mean, if this circulation is two level, so one part is like gallery, some will be useful, maybe it will be closed and there will be different spaces. But if it's not used, maybe in some spot I don't want it to be used, it could be an atrium, and then it will connect the two floors together. And yeah, maybe that's like a space where if you want to go, you can have some staircase that can switch level. And below, yeah, you'd have some people here, and they'd be looking at maybe paintings or maybe artifacts that are in display. People here. Maybe they actually, maybe there's a restaurant. Oops. And they're having dinner. Yeah, kind of like that. So the way it's designed, like the one below, could get a lot of natural light, and also here a lot of opportunity for ventilation, natural ventilation. But that's gonna come in a later stage. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the section, it doesn't really look curvy. I guess maybe you wouldn't feel that curve when you look from the outside, but when you're in, you'll know that you're going on a scenic journey. Oh, yo, here as well. Like sometimes maybe the path is going outside the boundaries, and maybe I was thinking that this could be expressed. I mean, this Tahitian curve could be expressed for the facade, and maybe like it's gonna be some type of lookout. So you'd have like maybe an opening here. People could come outside and see what's happening. Maybe I'll have like a bigger one here. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. I think in the next one I'm gonna try to create some shape in ArchiCAD to get a better view of it. But yeah, I think that's it for today. If you have any question, just post it in the comment sections, and if you have any feedbacks, tell me what you think about the ideas. If you think it's what you say, yeah, just let me know what you think.